Here we are with another unboxing. I'm Big Jeff from BigJeffAudio.com and representing B2 Audio USA.
This way you can see it before you buy it.
Who recently brought the B2 Audio from Denmark back in USA and reached out to say, hey, Jeff, we're going to need with marketing. And we also need to set up some help with distribution. So I said, let's do it. I love the brand. I got to meet Jay and I'm like, man, this is a great fit. So we are talking about Korean amps, the Zero line, which has been around for a long time and, didn't make anything coming really to the US for almost 2 years. And now it's back. The line is increasing. And there's some new Zeros like this one, the 012, which has never been made before. I take that back. No, it was made. It's been around for a few years, man. The Zeros have been known. It's one of those things that's just a awesome amplifier, Korean board, and it has the designing of B2 Audio behind it. So here we are doing unboxing. But before I start, hit that like button. Leave a comment now. You can always leave another one at the end. And share this out. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And if it's another social media, like and follow us. We do these unboxings and now we do these dynoings on amplifiers so you can see it, hear it, and get it tested before you even buy it. I'm Big Jeff. Let's start this off. Okay, so we're looking at the 012 and I got to stand back. We got to put a camera up there because this beast right here is not a small footprint amp. It is rated at 12,000 watts plus, and we're gonna test it out, but I know the other ones were doing way over the certified rated numbers, and then they explode with dynamic runs, right? So the outer carton, the shipping box, 39 inches, and on top, there's a sticker that says heavy package, 70 pounds plus. This is not a small amp. Okay, so this is how they come in on the pallets, containers in this. So if you buy one, which I hope you do, and this is not an everyday amp, they're not inexpensive. We're talking about an amp that is, I think it's $299. Oh, I don't know. We're gonna check that out, but it is not cheap. Why? Well, one, it's not an inexpensive amp. It is a rock solid Korean amp. It is a huge amp, and once we break this open, you're gonna see why. So let's start here, and always be careful. Anytime you open up a box, don't just cut straight down. Why? You might be cutting into something. I don't think I'd be doing that here, but it's a possibility, so always pick up. Okay, and when you're spending that kind of money on an amplifier, you wanna treat it like gold. Now, I know there's Zero amps still around from over 5 years ago, still working. That's the quality of it. Okay, so let's open her up. Then we have another box. And in that box, we have some styrofoam. A lot of protection goes into this amp. Why? Because this is something that you might buy, compete with, and this is not your everyday amp. Let me tell you why, because even if you had the money to buy this and you want all that power, you gotta have the electrical to match. And we're not talking about an extra battery or an upgraded alternator. We're talking about some serious electrical. So in here, I finally got to it, and this thing is packed with styrofoam, as you can see. All right, so I'm gonna, oh man, this thing has definitely got some weight to it. I am not lying to you. There is some serious weight. All right, let's get that out of the way. What else we got in here? All right, we got some package there. And we got a pamphlet there. Okay, so let's move this big giant thing out of the way. Let's get this beast up here. I'm gonna get it out of the bag. And look at that, you already see these fans. And there's two more down there that you don't see. All right. Man, this thing, I'm just gonna try to get even a weight. Oh, man. That's hard to even get it all the way on the scale. Okay, this is coming in at
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
40 pounds. Let's get this plastic off. Oh man, this is a beast. The 012. Okay, whew. That's a workout in itself. Hopefully Ben speeded this all up. 10 times speed. Okay, there we go. Whew. Man, okay, let me bring something up here because all the 0 amps, and I'm talking the new 0 amps. So the 012 has been around, but of course, with the whole relaunch in the USA, they didn't really change the design, but they made some changes, and one of them is that right there. So there's actual meaning to these triangles right here, and we'll have a picture probably right now. Okay, so I'm gonna read this to you because there's actually something to it. And it says, the Valken nut, which is that, it's the triangles, which is traditionally used only on top of the line models. In modern Norway, the word Valken nut means not of those fallen in battle, connecting the symbol to the god Odin, representing glory of death within battle. Man, that's deep. So, you know, B2 Audio over time has had things that relate, especially being in Denmark, near Norway, and you had the Kraken, and we have now on the 0 amp some mythological background to it. Really cool. So that's what that stands for. Now, this thing here is a beast. So we went over this, and yes, it's a $3,000 amp, but it's one of those that is going to be one. These things are made to get down and dirty. We're talking 0.5, and I've even seen some zeros in the past go lower. Not that I recommend it staying there, but this thing will produce some power, okay? Another thing I want to bring up, okay, and I'm going to turn on the Big Jeff cam.
Big Jeff cam activated.
Okay, Big Jeff cam right there. Notice there is 4 power 0 gauge inputs. And if you also notice the design, which makes it a lot less confusing and easier, ground, round and round, power.
Can we be serious now? Okay.
Ground, power, ground. It doesn't even alternate, which a lot of amps do that. I don't think they put the thought into the design, and it's a pain in the butt hooking it up, and I've seen a lot of people make those mistakes. So you have some serious power going in because it's rating that this thing here, 1,000 amps.
What?
Yes. So that means it's gonna create some power. All right, let's get back to the Big Jeff cam on this side. And here I want you to notice a few things. So we have left channel input, right channel input. We have output and input. And why do we have these? Well, this amp, the 0 line, will do master and daisy. Okay, and I'm gonna explain that in a minute. Let's look at the rest. We have gain control, we have power, clip, and protect, subsonic, low pass filter down to 35 up to 250. You have phase 0 to 180 degree. Okay, fans, you can either leave them on, you can go ahead and put them where they'll come on for thermal, or you can turn them off. A lot of amps don't have those options. And why would we want to just turn them off or on? Well, there is reasons for that. And if you have some other type of airflow, or you do want it to only come on at certain times, you have that, or just leave it on. You have what be 8 gauge inputs here for 2 powers, 2 grounds. Now, this is a monoblock, so all you need to do is connect, but it gives you 2 8 gauge outs to connect what you have. You have a remote in, and then you have a remote out. And then we also have a Cat 5 plug here for the actual remote. Okay, let's talk about daisy chain and master and slave. You are able to put 2 of these amps together, master and slave, and then basically you would be doubling the ohm rating, right? So if you were looking at this as a 1 ohm amplifier and you daisy chain 2, then you would look at it as a 2 ohm. But being that these amps can definitely go down with impedance and they actually create way more power, you could do 2, and again, I don't say it, but 1 ohm really. Now, you control 1 amp, which controls both. Now, a daisy chain is different, where you could actually go amp into amp separately, but you control the gain control and crossover settings with 1, which means when you're trying to match multiple amps, yes, you can get it there, but it is real tricky, and then there's a lot of variables. amperage, temperature, a lot of things over time will move that and needs to be readjusted. If you were to put this in daisy chain mode, whatever you had the one set up on, the others would follow. So what that means is you would have to go back in constantly and readjust each amplifier to get them to match. That's a cool feature, having both master slave or daisy chain, okay? So there's another thing on the design. All right, so obviously Tiffany style RCAs, which that's gonna be a must. Huge amp here. So let's look at the bass knob. So I know some people really love bass knobs. Some people don't even use them, especially in systems that are gonna be at this caliber. But we do have power protect clip. We do have temperature and voltage, and we have bass knob. This is plastic, but it is full control. You also get a long, which this looks to be a Cat 5 cable. So if you needed something, you could actually make your own, not a telephone cord. And besides a small sticker and some Allen wrenches that you might use and some screws, all these amps now, and most of all the B2 product, has a scan code on the product. Why? So you could scan that code and go right to videos like this, which we're working with B2 Audio USA and B2 Audio International. Also the dyno runs and the actual manual. So if there's adjustments or things that need to be added or stuff over time that we want to include, I am told that because of that QR code, those PDFs can be uploaded. So let's talk about some specs on this before we really crack this open. This is a half bridge. Now, there's always talk half bridge, full bridge, better, worse. Well, half bridge tends to be a much more expensive amplifier, much better quality amplifier, okay? So we also have a partially regulated power supply, technology that reduces power loss due to impedance rise. Okay, I've already seen this with past B2 audio like the Rage line, that normally when you have impedance rise, depending on the speaker, the box, the tuning frequency and all that, most amplifiers, when you go up, you'll lose some power, right? So that's why everybody loads them down. With these amplifiers, if it does go up, and we'll do some testing on that, unless it goes up drastically, and I'm saying if you went from like 1 to 1.5 or 2, you're still gonna get the same amount of power coming out, which is really good because we all fight that impedance rise, right? Some people call it box rise, but that's not really it, because if you take a woofer free air, you get a lot of impedance rise. So these partially regulated power supplies actually help combat that. And I know there's a lot of big amplifiers out there that as soon as you start raising up above 2, that power starts cutting down in half, and then that 8,000 watt or 5,000 watt amp really isn't anything near it. Okay, so we have that. Now let's look at ratings. Okay, frequency response, 10 hertz to 300 hertz, subsonic 10 hertz to 50 hertz. Operational voltage, 9 volts to 17.5. Now don't ever get to the point where you're running even under 12. These are not that type of amplifier. It will play, but you greater chance to injure the amp and have some system failures, but it will operate. It will operate up to 17.5. That is awesome. So for you guys that are just some bass heads running high amp alternators at above 16, there's a lot of amps that won't even turn on if it's over 16. This amp here is safe up to 17.5. So why do we run higher voltage? Well, when we're doing huge systems, your voltage drops, right? And then amperage increases, and then you have heat and distortion. It's like a domino effect. The higher you get your voltage up, as it drops, it's not going to drop as low. Now, the ratings from the factory were done, and I'm going to tell you at what voltage, 14.4. So that means that the certified ratings should do that or more at 14.4. If you're able to have your system run at 15 or higher, you could potentially create more wattage, more output, right? So having an amplifier that can work up to 17.5 is huge for some of you big guys, all right?
Yes, huge.
So looking more at this, here's some of the rate. Well, input sensitivity, 5 volts down to 0.2 volts. Again, try to get your system running at 4 volts or higher, right? That's the RCA. So if you're using a head unit, make sure you get a quality head unit. We sell Kenwood, we also sell Jensen. Make sure you get a 4 volt or higher. If you don't have that, you definitely want to use a line driver, or if you get a DSP or other things that can boost that. And keep in mind, when you have multiple amplifiers, you split that signal up, it actually starts to drop down. But this will technically run at 0.2 up to 5 volts. What does that mean? You don't want to put over 5 volts. You could actually injure this by putting too much voltage. So you guys that want to go spend 50 bucks on a line driver that does 10 volts, it could actually hurt this, right? So let's do what the factory says. You want to put in big money, $3,000. You want it to just blow the speakers out of the box, and you want it to last because of your investment.
Yeah, but it's not gonna last forever.
Everything lasts forever.
Then follow the instructions. Okay, so dampening factor 400, and then here's the ratings. Power at 4 ohms at 14.4, 4,000 watts. Power at 4 ohms at 16 volts, it was able, on the factory, on the bench, was able to create another 500 watts, so 4,500 watts at 4 ohms. Okay, then we go down to 2 ohms. 2 ohms at 14.4, the factory said 7,500 watts, and at 16 volts, 8,200 watts. And then at the rated 1 ohm, now the factory did do a 0.5, we'll get to that. The factory rated at 1 ohm at 14.4, which is your standard. I mean, most of your bass heads and running this are at least be running 14.8, 14.5. You were at 14.4, did 12,500, and that's why it's called the 012. Now that is certified. Now, at 1 ohm, 16 volts, the factory said it did 1,400 watts. Excuse me, 14,000 watts. Definitely don't want 1,400. Okay, here's the kicker. At 0.5 ohm from the factory, so it was tested, it dropped down to 12.6 volts. What they mean is they were running all the tests probably at 14.8, and on the first runs, when they locked in on the dyno, it stabled out at 14.4. So probably at 14.8 at 0.5, half an ohm, it dropped down to 12.6, and it gave them a burst of 20,088 watts. Whoa. Whoa. That is some serious, serious power. Now, what does burst mean? Well, exactly that. That was a okay, so for you guys that are competing, if you're able to have a lithium bank, right, that has, I don't know, 400, 500 amps per hour, right? And the guys are competing with lithiums like that, then you're able to keep your voltage up much higher, along with having alternators. When they're testing these on the bench overseas, they're not using a bank. They have a power supply, and that's it. So that's how they're able to do standardized tests at certain voltages. But obviously pulling 1,000 amps, there's not much out there that's going to give you 1,000 amps solid without having a bank. So the numbers are completely impressive, right? And we're going to do some testing as much as we can for that. So we're looking at the 012 right here. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to pop the top, as they say. I'm going to take the cover off so we can get a look at it. Listen, I'm Big Jeff, and with Movie Magic, we'll be right back. We're back. Movie Magic, I love it. So anyway, here we have is the amp upside down, okay? And what you're not supposed to do is take the cover off because you will void the warranty on that, but we're going to do that.
Do this by yourself!
This is going to be the amp that we're actually going to dyno, so I'm going to sign the back.
Thank you very much, sir.
So whoever gets this amp will know it was tested, it was on the video, and what the power created, that's in their hands. So first thing I want to do is turn on the Big Jeff cam.
Big Jeff cam activated.
And if you notice here, there's 4 fans on this amplifier, okay? And they're on the back plate. Also notice there's a gap here, and that's on purpose to basically give some gap between when you have it mounted so the air flows out. Now, a couple things I noticed watching a video, and over here, I want you to do some maintenance when you get amps like this. These bolts right here will loosen up over time from vibration. And if that does, this piece right here will flex open and it can pull on the board inside. And I watched that on an amp repair YouTube video. And actually, I believe it was a Ruthless Audio amp. They denied the warranty because when that pried open, it pulled, and it actually pulled on the MOSFET chips. and he could see that and he showed it. So his recommendation is that a part of regular maintenance on other types of equipment, do this with your amplifiers.
Do it. Do it.
Right? There's a tremendous amount of vibration, and certain types of vibration, if you don't deal with it right, could hurt the amplifier. So what did he say? He said that when you're retuning it or when you're doing cleaning, go back in and retighten those bolts. And then he recommended that doing a little bit of Loctite,
I'll glue it.
doing that would be beneficial too. A little bit, because you still want to get it open if there's a problem. So that was some I just picked up actually the other night, and that was really cool. I don't even remember the name. I've never even seen him on there, but he does amp repairs for a couple manufacturers, and it was real cool. So I'm going to crack this open and we're going to take a look at it. And there is a lot of screws holding this together. Now, let's talk about warranties, because there's a big thing between a factory defect failure and a failure from somebody, in this case, not supplying proper amperage and getting the amp too hot, or talking about where the vibration, because they didn't really do any kind of stabilizers or gaps, led to the side of the amp starting to loosen up. So understand that if there's a factory defect, there is a repair warranty. That is a process of pulling it apart and checking everything, and there's ways to tell how it happened, okay?
So now the truth comes out, doesn't it?
Also, too, keep in mind that if it is under a factory or not defect, but a factory warranty, meaning, hey, the amp just failed, if you continue to have issues, they're going to not, and this isn't even B2 Audio, this is a lot of brands, they're going to be at a certain point and say, hey, we repaired this too many times. You have something else going on and need to figure that out. But either way, when you spend money like this, it's not just put it in and leave it. You want to check things like, for instance, lithium cells need to be properly recharged and conditioned. You need a balancer. Most of the times I've ever seen like the LTL cells where they call where it vents was usually somebody that never had a balancer on there. And that's not what they're made. They're also made not just to be charged by alternators, but an actual charger made for lithium to condition them. So, you know, keep in mind, there's a lot more to all this. And if you're going to spend this kind of money, and if you put it in yourself or not, or you have a shop, you better get some idea of what's going on and set up some kind of maintenance scale. And it's just like a vehicle. You buy a vehicle, it needs oil changes, it needs things tightened, it needs things adjusted. It's the same thing, you know? So let me I'm going to be real careful. There we go. Okay. So first thing we have is the board. I'm going to disconnect the fans. So let's get the Big Jeff cam, and I want to show you what we have here first. So we first have DC 12-volt fans that are wired together, and they're connected this way. So we have 4 fans. Okay. And remember earlier in the video that you could set this to just be on. You could have it come on automatically. Sometimes people don't like hearing the fans. I'm going to put this over to the side. All right, perfect, man. This is just cool to look at. Let me tell you, I know you're about to see this on the video, but in person, just looking at all the parts that go into this, it is incredible. So this is how we're going to break this down. I'm going to turn on the Big Jeff cam, and then we're going to get the new up and close cam to get closer. But let's do an overview first. Now, I do know the amount of MOSFET chips on an amplifier kind of tells you how much power it's going to create. And this thing is loaded. And then I do know that running actual copper wire connecting is better than solid rods. And why? I found out. Think of a Slurpee and you're trying to drink it with a coffee straw. You'll get it up, but you get this headache. You're pulling so hard. This is also why you have to have multiple runs of 0 gauge. And then also having, instead of just a rod, that might kind of bottleneck when you're absorbing the power. And how that happens is you'll notice an amp sometimes actually produce less power because it's not able to get the proper amperage coming in. It has nothing to do with just volts. It also needs amperage. Okay, let's get back to the Big Jeff cam. The other thing is we got that Vulcan logo on each one, and they're pretty centered. I know I've seen videos of people complain because they're not centered, but it's a sticker and it's something to just make the amp look that much nicer. Okay. I mean, there's a lot in this big giant amp, and the thing is still full. We have, looks to be SamWa 250 watt, 1500 UF caps there. Man, I love to learn, and I am learning. I say to each video, I'm learning more and more. We have our, I don't know if you call it the mini board, or basically this is what processes the sound, and that makes a difference because a cheap amplifier can make cheap sound. So it's not just about the power, but if you notice in here, everything is real solid, extra type of like a silicone glue, and I'm guessing for the vibration. Man, this thing is just cool to look at, and in person, and I've looked at a lot of amps, but this thing just looks crazy. I can't wait to see the 015, which is even bigger. Let me do this. I'm going to turn on the up close and personal, the new camera we've been using. Here we go. Turn the up close and personal on. And for you amp people or repair people, leave some comments. Tell me what you see in here that stands out. I think everybody would love to see that, including myself. Now, I'd like to know, is it clean? Is it, I mean, what is all this that makes it different? There's your 0 gauge inputs directly to the board. We have our coils here. We have tons of caps, tons of MOSFETs. This is really, really cool to look at. And I know it's crazy to think, well, Big Jeff, you don't even know what you're talking about. I don't, I'm admitting it, but I'm learning a little bit more and more, and I'd love to bring that knowledge, but I love hearing it from people who actually know what they're talking about. Like the other day on one of the videos, I was saying static and dynamic runs, and he cleared the air with it, which was really cool. So we have that white board, which is real nice. And it looks like, because the taproot, we have two boards. We have two setups in here, right? You have the power side, you have the input and the output side. Yeah, this is just cool looking, man. I really like the look. I really do. Okay, so that's the up close and personal. You can see right there on the wire. Go back to the, let me see if I can catch it. Audio gauge, right there, ultimate, made in Korea. Even the wire, Korean wire with a Korean board. Really cool. So let me go with the up close and personal here, and we're talking about all the 0 gauge inputs. I know it's upside down here. I can turn it that way for you. Here we go. All right, and then over on this side, there we go. It's just a clean, big, strong amp. Okay, so please leave comments, because I'd like to know what stands out about this besides it just being huge and looks to be very clean and tight. This is an awesome amp, man. I'm excited. The Zero's always been popular before we even got involved. People even ask when they're coming back, and they're here, they're available. So B2 Audio USA got the product in, and we got a pallet of just 0 amps. And by the time this video comes out, we have a container coming from B2 Audio USA of all the new products. So this is the 012, and this is the unboxing video. And I'd love to see your comments. I know there's only so much you could show or do or even explain, because I'm still learning about the innards of this stuff. But I'd love to hear from you. And then we'll do another video and get this on the dyno. Here's the problem. The SMD AM1 only goes to a certain power rating at a particular ohm. So we're gonna see what we could do, and then maybe hook up either the SPL labs or the term lab meter to go above that. Second, even with our power supplies, and we have from Massive Audio coming 4 100 power supplies that could be daisy chained together. Bob from American Bass, big shout out, with 3 40 amps, not going to cut it. So we're gonna go put this in there. Turn on the Big Jeff cam for me. And then I'm gonna run real quick outside. We took out from the Yukon my big battery lithium bank right here, which I got running on a lithium charger as we talked about. And this is 700 amps plus of power. So because we're rebuilding the Yukon with all B2, we're gonna be putting that in the test bench. See, that's the cool thing, that we can have all this stuff. Man, it's just crazy from you all. Turn off the Big Jeff cam. From you all getting us to this place, 6 years of doing business, have made it a way so we can do stuff like that. So we're gonna get that bank hooked up for this with the 400 amps of power, right? And then we're gonna see how big we can go on the dyno and then have to go another route for testing. But here's the 012. I'm Big Jeff from bigjeffaudio.com. We're a distributor and online seller for B2 Audio, B2 Audio USA. If you got somebody that's interested, we can sell to them as a dealer because we're a distributor. And if they're planning to make bigger orders, they can always go directly to B2 Audio USA. I'm just happy they involved us and we get stuff like this first. We get to play with it, test it, market it. So we have these available now. Stay tuned for the actual dyno video. And no, there won't be a giveaway on this. They're too expensive and there's only so many at a time, but plenty of other products come. So leave a comment, hit that like button, share this out, please. If you're new, I hope you liked the video. I know unboxing can be a little bit boring, but looking at this stuff to me is super cool. I love it. I love doing it every time. So I'm Big Jeff from bigjeffaudio.com signing off. It can never be too loud.